Is Donald Trump truly God's chosen one? This question has sparked intense debate, especially among those who believe in the profound connection between faith and politics. Throughout his presidency, many of Trump's decisions seem to align with biblical prophecies, leading some to believe that he was fulfilling a divine purpose. In this video, we'll explore biblical signs that suggest Trump might be playing a unique and significant role in God's plan for Israel, the nation, and the world. From his bold support of Israel to his policies on religious freedom and life, we'll break down these signs and examine their deeper meanings. Whether you're a devout believer or simply intrigued by the intersection of Scripture and modern events, this exploration will offer a fascinating perspective on a leader many believe is part of a much greater narrative. So, let's dive in and explore these biblical clues that point to something far beyond politics. Over the past few years, Donald Trump has consistently surprised the entire planet. When all seemed lost, when adversity appeared insurmountable, he not only stood firm but rose again and again, unscathed and inexplicably stronger. Some believe it's just chance or coincidence, but when we look closer, we find signs so powerful that many begin to wonder, could Trump's path be marked by God? Could he be a chosen one? The Bible is filled with figures who, at first glance, seem the least likely to undertake a sacred mission. Moses, raised in the opulence of Egypt, ended up leading his people through the desert. David, a simple shepherd, was anointed king. Even Jesus, the son of a humble carpenter, changed the entire world. What if something like this happened today? In chaotic times, God might choose someone unexpected to accomplish his purpose. That's how he's always worked. In the Bible, we read, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong." Today, we're going to unveil the 7 biblical signs in Trump's life. Pay attention because some of these signs relate to prophecies that haven't yet been fulfilled. Share your thoughts. Do you believe these signs are truly acts of God, or do you think they lack biblical significance? And if you think there are other signs, for or against, tell us in the comments section. Let's begin. The prophecy of Cyrus. Trump is the 45th President of the United States. The same number appears in Isaiah chapter 45 with an intriguing message. God calls upon Cyrus, a foreign king, a leader outside the people of Israel, to fulfill a divine mission. In Isaiah 45, God declares, "I summon you by name, though you do not acknowledge me." Cyrus, also known as Cyrus the Great, was the king of Persia who, against all odds, became a liberating force for the people of Israel. This monarch, despite being a foreigner, is recognized in the Bible as God's anointed. In Isaiah 45, it's a unique and profoundly symbolic case. God chooses a leader outside his own people to fulfill a divine purpose. Cyrus's mission was astonishing, to free the Israelites from their captivity in Babylon and allow them to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. In the history of Israel, God's chosen people, this was an act of monumental restoration. God selects someone who doesn't know him intimately but carries out a mission that unknowingly impacts millions. Yes, Cyrus was anointed, but he wasn't the typical man of God. He was an unexpected leader, someone who didn't align with the sacred, yet he was chosen to set Israel free. The prophet Isaiah proclaims that the Lord called him by name and granted him victory even without knowing him. Indeed, in the Bible, God doesn't always choose those who seem most fit in our eyes. Sometimes, he chooses those who defy our expectations, those who, like Cyrus, astonish the very people they come to help. So could there be a parallel between Cyrus and Trump? What if this isn't just a prophecy of the past but a vision of what's to come? Trump is a man whose life has been anything but conventional. He's a businessman, someone many believed was unlikely to attain power. Just like Cyrus, Trump rose to power without the blessing of religious elites. It's not that Trump is perfect, far from it, but perhaps it's not his perfection that matters, it's his purpose. Maybe, like Cyrus, his mission doesn't require deep faith or detailed knowledge of Scripture, but rather a position and a willingness to act. Unknowingly, Trump might be fulfilling a role in a plan that surpasses him. Isn't that what we so often witness in the Bible's pages? God uses those we least expect to fulfill His divine purpose. Donald Trump's second victory in the United States elections was, to some, more than just a political win. It was seen as confirmation that he is the chosen one to protect Israel and fulfill a divine purpose, perhaps without even realizing it. This belief brings us to the second sign, the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. In a surprising move that left the world speechless, Donald Trump did what previous presidents hadn't dared to contemplate. He relocated the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, officially acknowledging it as the capital of Israel. This decision was rich in symbolism, interpreted by many as a reaffirmation that Jerusalem is the eternal and indivisible capital of the Jewish people, just as the prophets declared. With a single act, Trump aligned American policy with ancient biblical promises about the return of Jerusalem to the heart of Israel. To some, this move was more than mere politics. Trump was viewed as a champion of Israel, reinforcing the historical bond between the nation and its sacred capital. In the Bible, God states clearly, "I will bless those who bless you." It is a promise that those who bless Israel will themselves be blessed. Jerusalem is mentioned over 800 times in the Bible. It is the place where God established His name. It is the city that upholds the hope of the people of Israel and the promise that God will not abandon His people. Officially recognizing it as the capital of Israel is not just a declaration, it's an act laden with symbolism. Some believe that only a chosen one would dare to do it. The recognition of Jerusalem was interpreted as a symbolic step toward preparing for the coming of the Messiah, according to the texts of Ezekiel and Revelation. Making Jerusalem a spiritual center marks the beginning of apocalyptic events. The reconstruction of the temple is not just a physical act, it's a symbol of the final restoration of Israel and the closeness of God with His people. Ezekiel describes it as the place where God will put His sanctuary forever, signaling the divine return and eternal peace in Jerusalem. Revelation takes this vision even further, depicting the New Jerusalem descending from heaven, a place where God's dwelling place is now among the people. In this culmination, Jerusalem becomes the eternal city, the center of a transformed creation without pain or death. So, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel was an act much deeper than merely a controversial political decision. Many believe that Trump was initiating the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. From this moment on, Trump is seen by some as a man entrusted with a special mission to protect Israel in times of need, an anointed one chosen to safeguard Israel and fulfill prophecies that remain unfulfilled in Jerusalem. But Trump didn't stop there. He continued defending Israel with the next sign, the signing of the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords, signed in 2020, were an unprecedented step and an unexpected turn of diplomacy. Trump became the mediator who managed to bring together Israel and several Arab countries under a common purpose, peace. This agreement surprised the world, especially in a context where relations among these nations had long been marked by years of conflict, mistrust, and broken promises. For many, it was just a political move. For others, it was a sign of something much deeper. From a biblical perspective, the words Abraham Accords resonate with powerful force. Through Abraham, God established His promise to create His people, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through him. Abraham is the father of Israel, the patriarch of three great religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. The name Abraham Accords was not chosen by chance, it represents the union of all peoples, a fulfillment of God's promise. The shared lineage and the promise of a land of peace are themes the ancient scriptures foretold for times like these, and for many, those words are coming alive. In the Bible, we read, "In that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. In that day, Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth." But just as hope was blossoming, voices of caution emerged. While people are saying, peace and safety, destruction will come upon them suddenly. Joy mingled with uncertainty, and every eye searched the horizon for signs. In the Bible, peace in the Middle East is a sign of great significance, a prelude to monumental events. Some Christians see these agreements as a step closer to those prophecies, a manifestation that significant times are near. But why Trump? Why, out of all world leaders, was it him? Many have pondered whether there's a divine intention behind this. Trump isn't the typical image of a conventional peacemaker, yet his actions in this case defy expectations. It's as if, amid the tensions, someone granted him the ability to accomplish what others could not. For some, this agreement becomes a clear sign that something more is happening, that it's not just diplomacy. Is it possible that these agreements, with their implications of peace and promise, truly symbolize the fulfillment of the scriptures? For those who believe in a divine purpose, the answer is clear. Not only has the prophecy of this peace been fulfilled, but also the prophecy of its breaking, war, and this prophecy is realized with the following sign, the fourth sign. After losing the presidency, Israel enters into war. The defeat of Donald Trump in the 2020 elections was an unexpected twist for many of his followers, a moment filled with great uncertainty. His departure from the White House marked the beginning of a new era, one that, for some, seemed more aligned with divine plans than with the shifting tides of politics. As the world watched the change in leadership, something began to unfold far beyond American affairs. Something that would set off alarm bells everywhere. Israel, God's chosen people, once again faced the threat of war. The fragile peace that had lasted for several years began to crumble, and the echoes of an ancient conflict returned, striking the sacred region once more. But this was already written in the Bible. In Zechariah 12, we read a prophecy, the word of the Lord concerning Israel, the Lord who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, and who forms the human spirit within a person declares, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged, as well as Jerusalem. On that day, when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, on that day, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. All who try to move it will injure themselves. This ancient and obscure verse seems to come alive in a modern context. Israel, surrounded by enemies and facing new threats, once again becomes the center of tension. For some, this war is not just another conflict. The Bible speaks of times when Israel will be tested, and many see Trump's absence from the presidency as a crucial factor in the unfolding of these events. This turbulent stage feels as though Trump's departure has opened a door to dark times, a trial for God's people. His exit, followed by the war in Israel, serves as a reminder to some that battles never end, that there is always a purpose behind every trial, and that the destiny of the chosen, whether nations or individuals, is not decided at the ballot box but by something much greater. The Bible tells us of Israel as the people whom God would protect and love eternally. In Genesis 12, God promises Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. This leads us to the next powerful sign, the fifth sign, a narrow escape by mere millimeters. During a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump stood before a passionate crowd, speaking with his characteristic confidence. Mid-speech, Trump casually turned his head slightly to the right to redesign someone in the crowd. It was an almost imperceptible movement, a casual gesture anyone might have made. Yet, this small act would become the difference between life and death. At that very moment, an attacker fired a bullet that tore through the air with relentless speed, aimed at its target. But instead of a direct hit, the projectile grazed Trump's right ear, barely skimming his skin. The scene transformed in a matter of seconds. Chaos and commotion engulfed the venue. The crowd, initially unaware of the danger, erupted in screams and confusion, while Trump raised a hand to his ear, feeling the heat and hearing the blast of the shot, not fully grasping the magnitude of what had just occurred. What seemed like a simple reaction, a reflex, was the turn that saved him from death. In that precise second, that tiny fraction of time, the bullet that could have ended his life was deflected. Trump later remarked that if he hadn't turned his head, he wouldn't be alive. On the social media platform X, Trump wrote, "Only God prevented the unthinkable from happening." The bullet came within millimeters of taking his life, yet it didn't touch him. And that's where the question many can't avoid arises: was this simply a matter of chance, or was it an intervention by something much greater? Some say it was sheer luck, but others, those who see beyond, believe it was a sign, evidence that Trump was not alone in that moment. After all, it's not the first time a leader has been inexplicably protected. The scriptures are filled with moments when God intervenes to protect those he has called to fulfill his purpose. In the story of David, as he fled from Saul, the future king of Israel was repeatedly saved from deadly situations. Then there's Daniel, who was protected from the inevitable in the lion's den. My God sent his angel and he shut the mouths of the lions. Each of these events wasn't just a display of power, it was an affirmation that God protects those who have a role to fulfill. Many believe what happened to Trump follows the same pattern. It wasn't chance or coincidence, it was intervention. For those who view with eyes of faith, there's no doubt that the failed shot was a sign that Trump isn't alone, that there's a plan surrounding him, and a mission yet to be fulfilled. Psalm 91 is a promise of divine protection. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. The deflected bullet seems to echo this promise, a reminder that God can use his power to keep safe those who are in the place he has determined. This unexpected event might be revealing that in the heart of the storm, there's a purpose we haven't yet fully seen. For believers, this isn't simply a stroke of luck, it's a reminder that when God has a plan, nothing can stop it. That day in Butler, a second was enough to change the course of a life, and perhaps of history itself. The question then is no longer whether it was chance or destiny, the real question is, for what purpose was he preserved? What mission must he still fulfill? Some believe their mission is to defend the people of Israel, God's chosen nation, but others, in contrast, believe their mission is to uphold the following signs. The sixth sign, pro-life. From the very beginning of his presidency, Donald Trump took a bold and unwavering stand on an issue that has profoundly divided society, the defense of life from the moment of conception. During his time in office, he championed pro-life policies and nominated conservative judges to the Supreme Court, judges who, through their decisions, would tip the scales toward restricting abortion. To some, this was just another political move, but to the Christian community, especially those who see life as a sacred gift, it was a powerful sign, a hint that Trump was acting in alignment with divine principles, protecting the most defenseless, those who cannot yet speak. In the Bible, life is regarded as a gift from God, something to be protected and respected. Psalm 139 declares, "For you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because your works are wonderful." These words highlight the conviction that every life is God's handiwork, a divine creation deserving of care and protection. By adopting a pro-life stance, Trump gained the support of many Christians who saw in him someone willing to defend this principle. It's here where Trump, a leader who often challenges conventional norms, emerges as a defender of life at a critical moment. While the world continues to debate the value of life from its earliest moments, his administration supported laws and policies that aimed to protect the most vulnerable. From a biblical perspective, defending life is a sacred principle. In the Bible, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." This verse reminds us that every life has a purpose, a reason for being, and that from the womb we are already known and loved by God. For those who interpret the times through Scripture, Trump's policies reflected this eternal truth. It wasn't just about changing laws, but about echoing a spiritual mandate to protect those who have no voice. The nomination of conservative judges was also a strategic act, a move that ensures these policies can be sustained over time. In every pro-life decision and in every judge who supports these laws, those who believe in their purpose see a reflection of a biblical value, a promise that God does not abandon the defenseless. Trump, who in other respects didn't seem like a conventional spiritual leader, took a step that many interpret as a mandate to protect what's most sacred, life itself. For some, it was an act of courage and obedience to principles that they believe come not from humanity but from God. For many, this stance in favor of the most vulnerable is proof that even amid controversies, his role in history might have a higher purpose. Because for those who believe, there is no act of defending the defenseless that doesn't resonate with the very heart of God. But there's another sign that many consider an important part of his mission, the defense of religious freedom. During his administration, Donald Trump defended religious freedom in a way that few leaders in his position had ever dared. He signed executive orders that not only protected but strengthened the right of religious organizations to practice and express their beliefs without fear of government interference. During his presidency, Donald Trump took bold steps to defend religious freedom, ensuring that religious organizations could access government funding without compromising their beliefs. Many felt that the freedom to express faith was dwindling, being pushed out of public life, but Trump stepped in. He championed the right to pray in schools, supported public employees in expressing their religious convictions, and launched initiatives to defend Christian communities abroad, many of whom were persecuted for their faith. There were no demands to conform or hide their beliefs. It was a powerful declaration at a critical time, showing unwavering support for religious values and the rights of believers to express themselves. To some, this may have seemed like a political move, but to others, it was a glimpse of something deeper, a sign that God was using an unlikely leader to restore values many thought had been lost. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world." In the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. For those who see these acts as a sign, Trump's story seems to follow the pattern of ancient biblical leaders, those who, though imperfect, were called to protect the space where faith can flourish. Jesus also said, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." For some, Trump's advocacy for religious liberty echoes this profound statement, serving as a reminder that genuine freedom encompasses the right to live according to one's personal convictions. His executive orders and outspoken support for prayer in schools weren't merely political maneuvers, they were bold proclamations in defense of a sacred right. In the Bible, we read, "If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." To those who believe in Trump's divine purpose, these actions were far from mere political gestures. With each signature penned and each speech delivered, he seemed to rekindle a commitment to God, championing the right of every individual to live out their faith unafraid and unrestrained. His stance unsettled many, yet for others, it was a clear indication that something greater was guiding his path. In a world of constant change and challenges, many are looking for guidance from a higher power. Some believe that the signs in Donald Trump's life are not just random events, but signs sent by God to indicate that he is the chosen one for a greater mission. From recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel to protecting religious freedom, Trump's actions and policies have led many to believe that he is part of God's divine plan. These decisions are not just political, but according to many believers, they have a deeper meaning, as if they are fulfilling the biblical promises of the return of the Messiah and the restoration of Israel. But is Trump truly the chosen one of God, or is it just a strange coincidence in the course of history? Whether you believe it or not, these signs offer an opportunity to reflect on our faith, on the mission we may have in our lives, and on the wonders we may yet see. The Trump story, while controversial, is a reminder that in the great events of the world, there may be divine plans that we cannot yet fully understand. In an era when openly discussing religion might be deemed inappropriate, Trump challenged this norm. In doing so, he sent a resounding message: faith and religious freedom should not merely be respected but safeguarded at all costs. These are the 7 signs suggesting that Donald Trump might be God's chosen one. But what do you think? Do you believe the biblical connections are compelling enough to uphold this assertion? Or do you feel the scriptural verses are unrelated? Share your thoughts in the comment section. And if you're eager to learn more, you need to watch this video. Some religious leaders assert that Kamala Harris, the candidate opposing Trump, represents Esther, the significant queen whose story is told in the book of Esther. Why are they comparing Kamala to a biblical queen? I'll explain it all in this video that appears on your screen. Click on the video to discover the mystery of this comparison. Blessings.